Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an overview on number and quantity and a little bit of probabilities and statistics. So you want to put these in the last pages of your notebook, again, the last 4 or 5 pages, and we'll go over some of the things that would be good things to have carried over from previous classes. So let's start with number and quantity. So top 5 things that you want to know about number and quantity are percents, distance equals rate times time, average speed, sequences, matrices, fractions, taking a fraction and making it into a decimal. So percents means hundredths or a number out of 100. So when we are using a percent, make sure that you divide by 100 to get it in its decimal form. So this would be an example of a question that would be talking about percents. 15 is what percent of 20? So what we do is we would say 15, and then is always means equals, and of always means multiply. So we're looking for that x value of the percent. So we're going to solve this like a basic linear equation and divide both sides by 20. And we get 0.75. But remember, the question said what percent? 0.75 is not the percent. So to get the percent, we're going to multiply by 100 to get its percent. This is in its decimal form, it's 0.75. To get it in its percent form, we would multiply by 100. So that would be 75%. Now you can set up this equation for any type of problem like this. It wouldn't have to be, we could be given the percent, and this number, 15, is, okay, we could say 75% of what number? So then we could put the x value in for the 20. But if they give us a 75%, just remember that when we use percent in problems, we always use the decimal form. So if we had 15 is 75% of what number, that would be the x. So then we would say 15 is equal to 0.75 times x. We would divide by 0.75, and then our x would obviously be 20. So you should be able to put the x in any part of that and find what you're looking for. Distance equals rate times time. Distance is d. D stands for distance. R is rate. Distance is like miles, kilometers, centimeters, millimeters, or kilometers. If you say it as kilometers, it can be called kilometers too. And then rate is kilometers per hour, or miles per hour, or feet per second, okay? So rate is always a speed, and then time is your hour or your seconds or whatever. Make sure that all those units relate to each other. So if distance is in feet, but your rate is in miles per hour, you're going to have to, adjust some of that information so that you're working with the same units throughout distance equals rate times time. Average speed is just your total distance divided by your total time. So however far you go divided by however your total time was. Sequences are basically a rule. It's a way to find the value of each term or to find a pattern. So usually the pattern is created by either adding or subtracting a number or by multiplying or dividing a number. Okay? So once the rule is found, just make sure that you write all the terms requested. So if they're looking for the 5th or the 7th term and you figure out the rule, just make sure that you write them all out, because it's easy to miss it if you don't write them all out. Matrices are just ways to organize a data. You probably haven't seen this, but they normally look kind of like a spreadsheet. So when we're adding and subtracting, we add and subtract each like spot in a matrix. So if I have these two matrices, I can add each spot to each related spot. Just have to make sure that you have the same sort of matrix. So if this one it had 3 columns, you wouldn't be able to add it to a 2-column one. So they have to have the same number of columns and rows. So I can add 2 plus 1 and I would get 3. I could add 3 and -10 and I'd get -7. I could add 5 and 8 and get 13, and I could add 6 and -2 and get 4. So basically, you look at the spot the number is in and you add it or subtract it to the spot of the other matrix. So this relates to this one. Okay? When there's a number on the outside, basically you multiply each number on the inside by that number. So it's just think distributive property. So if we had a 2 by 2 here, we had that same 2 by 2 up there, 2, 3, 5, 6, and we had this number on the outside, our answer would be 6, 9, 15, 18. Okay, so think distributive property. This number would be distributed to each one of those numbers. Okay, fractions to decimals. This is huge when you're taking kind of a fast-paced test. When asked to compare fractions for a quick comparison, divide them out and get decimals. Place them in order using decimals because it's way easier that way. So my recommendation is to take these fractions. If you don't know what they are, maybe you know them in your head. Maybe you already know 4/8 is 0.5. I mean, that's half. Maybe you know 3/12 is 0.25. That's a fourth. You don't have to use your calculator for that, but the ones that you need to put in your calculator, I'd put them in your calculator. I'd write them underneath them or on top or, somehow so that I know which one relates to which. And then I would put them from greatest to least or least to greatest. In this case, greatest to least would be 0.5, 0.4, 0.25, and 0.2. Be careful, watch for that. You need to be watching for these numbers or watching for these keywords, greatest to least, least to greatest. You don't want to mess them up because obviously one of the choices is always going to be the opposite. Okay, so really watch out and either circle your words or underline them. But somehow, and then always just make sure that you're checking some of those words back from the original question. All right, that's numbers and quantity. So now we're going to go to some probability and statistics. The top 5 things to know about probability and statistics would be mean, median, and mode. The counting principle, and just some simple probability. Mean, median, and mode, they all kind of relate to one another. But I have them on separate slides just because I didn't have room to put all of them on one slide. So mean is the average. The way to find the average of a list of numbers, mean, median, mode is when you're given a list of numbers for either one or for all. You would be given a list of numbers. That's how they relate. So if you're given a list of numbers and you want the mean, you're going to add up all the numbers in the list, divide by how many numbers there are in the list. So it's basically the sum of all the numbers divided by count how many you have. Okay. Median is the middle. So if you're thinking about driving down the road, the median is that part in the middle. So the way to find the median of a list of numbers is to place all the numbers you are given in exact order from lowest to highest, and then find the number in the middle. So I kind of go from outside in. So I'll cancel out the outside 2 and then cancel out the next and next and next and next until I get the middle number. Now here's the big deal though. If you find the middle number and there's 2 left over, how do you find the middle number? Well, you have to add them together and divide by 2. So if there's not just one number in the middle, but 2 numbers in the middle, you have to average those 2 numbers. So add them together and divide by 2. And then mode is the most. What number do you see the most often? So you would look for which number you see the most. Okay. So I'd circle all the numbers, all the number 3, or box them, or underline them, or whatever, so you can find the one that appears the most. So mean, average, median, middle, mode, most. That's kind of how I remember those. The counting principle is when there are m ways to do one thing and n ways to do another, then there are m times n ways of doing both. So a really good example would be Alicia has 3 shirts and 4 pairs of pants. How many outfits can Alicia make? Well, she has 3 shirts, 4 pants, 3 times 4 is 12. So she can make 12 different outfits. Okay, so that's kind of the counting principle. That's seen a lot. And then simple probability. Probability refers to the chance of a specific outcome can occur. So number of ways that a specific outcome can occur divided by the total number of possible outcomes. So how many green socks are in the drawer of 20? Well, if you count out that there are 3 green pairs of socks, then it's 3 out of 20 pairs. That's the probability. All right, that's all I have for number and quantity and probability and statistics. Thanks for taking good notes, and we'll practice some of these problems. Peace out.